The Dark Souls games by FromSoftware are some of my favorite games of all time. I've also loved every other game that FromSoftware has ever made, being Elden Ring, Sekiro, Bloodborne, Demon Souls. Now, what does any of what I just said have to do with reading? Well, because exploring worlds like that is so exhilarating, I've always wanted to explore a world like that on the pages of a book. Upon doing a quick Google search, and you can do this as well, finding books that are like the Dark Souls games is a bit of a struggle. However, the one result that will always show up for you is Between Two Fires. This is a book that I have had on my shelf for a little while now, and I have been so excited to read it. It's grim dark fantasy based in France during the plague, with a bunch of fantasy elements added on top. So as far as I know, this is historical fiction, but you're gonna find lots of knights and armor and monsters and combat. Or at least that's what I hope to find in this book. And because I'm so excited for it, I figure why not make this the first reading vlog for the First Page channel. I genuinely cannot wait to start reading this book. And you know what? It all begins with the first page. See what I did there? Immediately, we get right into what this disease is, and that's what the book calls it. It calls it the disease or the sickness. We know that in the lands, food is sparse, and so the first band of misfits that we're reading along with, there's one character who's overweight, and the book literally says they have no idea how he managed to stay fat. They also say that the disease has killed pretty much anyone they've ever come across in the lands. They come across a lot of dead bodies during their travels. And assumedly, all of these people have died from the disease, although I'm sure we're probably going to get into more of that later on in the book. But immediately we get right into why this book is considered grimdark, because they come across this little girl who is hiding from them in a tree because she's afraid that they're going to take advantage of her. And she wasn't wrong. They immediately begin to try to take advantage of her. However, one of the members of this band of misfits that is traveling across the lands is a man named Tomas. Tomas eliminates almost everyone that he is traveling alongside and brings this little girl along with him for his travels. And now we are set up in this premise where he is going to be traveling across the lands, protecting this girl from who knows what. So it kind of feels a little bit like The Last of Us, although I'm sure The Last of Us came out after this. I think this book came out in 2012. It doesn't say anywhere in the book, but I'm pretty sure I read that it came out in 2012. Regardless, it's a classic tale of a hero bringing this little girl across the lands and protecting her from everything that the lands have to offer that is trying to kill them. But the writing from Christopher, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that last name. His prose is magnificent. I am thoroughly impressed right now. Anyway, that's enough chit chat for this update. Let's get back into the pages. So the book is broken up into 5 parts. I just finished part 1, which puts me on page 107. So Tomas and the girl, I'll keep calling her the girl for a specific reason I'll get into right now, are traveling across France, and they're not quite sure where they want to go. They've kind of hemmed and hawed about going to Paris, so that might be the destination that they're ultimately looking to head towards. They've gone on quite a few different side adventures, including one where they had to fight a giant serpent in the water. They've had to come across tales of a goat child boy hybrid thing that is being described as a devil. They've met up with a priest who is also coming with them on this journey, so now our party is of 3 people. And the writing so far is very, very good. I'm very interested in the journey that Tomas and the priest and the girl are going on, and I really want to see where they end up. And also what other cool, fantastical creatures they're going to come across during their further journey. Now, the reason that Tomas keeps calling her the girl, and she has offered to tell him her name, is because he doesn't want to get attached. And that is said verbatim in this story. He says, I do not want to know your name, do not tell me, so he continues to call her the girl. The only main problem that I've had with the story so far, I can't really go into detail about without spoiling it. So at the end of this video, should I remember, I am going to talk about that further. So if you would still like to enjoy reading this book, but you want to finish this video, by all means, I'm going to avoid spoilers as much as possible. But at the end of the video, I'm going to go into a little more detail about that. So I just hit the halfway point, which is chapter 19. What I'm liking about this book so far is that it's not super narrative driven, and it's not really a character exploration either. It's kind of a world exploration through the eyes of our three characters, which are Tomas, Delphine, which turns out to be the young girl's name, and Père Mature, which I'm pretty sure translates to Matthew. Delphine, the young girl that Tomas is traveling across France with, they believe to be a witch because she's hearing voices in her head, and anytime a stranger asks her a question, she somehow miraculously comes up with the correct answer, even though she has no idea what this person is talking about. And she explains this to Tomas, and she says, the voices in my head told me what the answers were. I didn't know what the answers were. And she can somehow tell things that are unseen and know things that she doesn't know, and they believe to be her a witch. They believe her to be, you understand. And Père Mature is meeting people who are trying to confess to him, but they are very clearly diseased with the plague, and they don't want to catch that. And beyond that, Tomas is meeting all of these estranged mythical creatures and killing them and fighting with them, meeting strangers who want to come with them to Paris, and they won't let them come along because of the disease, the plague that is going around. I'm so thoroughly impressed with the world exploration that Christopher, our author here, has been able to come up with, because it is historical fiction based during the plague in France and something that really happened, and then giving it all of these mythological creatures that are out there in the world and the dangers of the plague, but also the dangers of these serpents and goat people and fields that you can sleep in that give you nightmares and all this crazy stuff. It is just so cool. It is also extremely violent. I figured that one out this morning. Regardless, we're halfway through. I'm almost done this book, and I just want to keep reading. This world is so cool. And like I said, it's not really a character study, and there isn't a strong narrative that's happening in this book. It's really a study of this world, France, during the plague. But what if it was based in a world with serpents and monsters and dragons? And I just think that's such a cool idea. So anyway, back to it. Hey, so I finished it. And all I really have to say is, wow. I'll be honest, that last quarter kind of had me confused, in the sense that the story was taking me in a direction that I absolutely did not expect to go, and by the time you get to the final page of this book, you really begin to appreciate the direction that our author here takes us in. I'm glad that I didn't see the ending coming, and as far as being satisfied with the ending, absolutely. I am Yeah, very good. As far as my overall review, I'll try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. During the beginning of this video, during those first couple of chapters, there was a particular part that I wanted to come back and touch on about me not liking a particular something about the story. That particular something involves a dream sequence, and I never really like it in stories, books, movies, TV, whatever medium. I don't like when our characters go through things and then all of a sudden the big twist is that it was all just a dream, and something like that does happen towards the beginning of this book. And at first I kind of took it at face value. Okay, it's a dream sequence, I don't particularly like that. But as things begin to happen throughout this book and more of the world becomes unraveled and you get to explore more of Normandy during this time in this mystical world where creatures roam freely, you kind of begin to question if it really was a dream sequence. And because of that, I retract my prior statement. I am fully on board with almost everything that happens in this story. Sometimes some of the storytelling can get a little convoluted, and I'm sure that just has to do with Christopher's prose and me not being used to it. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I own one other book by this author, and now that I've read Between Two Fires, I absolutely cannot wait to hop into that world and explore that story, because I know that our author here is extremely talented. Now, there are two things that I specifically wanted to touch on about my overall reaction to this book, and that is A, how it ends, and B, if it really does feel like Dark Souls. So was the ending satisfying? Absolutely. I am completely satisfied. Don't take that out of context. And does it feel like Dark Souls? Yes. Yes, absolutely, especially in the ending. For the first 3/4 of this book, the relation that a lot of readers tie into this being in the Dark Souls world, or feeling like it at least, has to do with the tone. Dark Souls is all about medieval Europe and diseases going through and creatures running rampant, and that pretty much is what this is. There definitely are a lot less mystical creatures in this book than can be found in those video games, but the world and the tone and the atmosphere is through and through Dark Souls. Now, don't go into this book expecting to see giant monsters and bosses like you would find in those games. You're going to be disappointed by this. It's entirely about the tone and atmosphere and kind of place in the world that it takes place in, with the exception of the ending. Now, I won't get into spoilers, as I've said a few times. Oh, you scared me. Trying to stay away from spoilers, as I have said multiple times during this video. The ending of this story, the last quarter, is through and through Dark Souls. And I'm not just talking about the atmosphere and the tone and the world in this instance. I am talking about giant, insanely ethereal creatures that are Lovecraft inspired, with tentacles and eyes and goop and just so monstrous. Going into this book, I totally expected it to be through and through Dark Souls, and for the first 3/4 of this book, I was disappointed. I love the tone, I love the cultures of this world, but reading through this book is absolutely worth it just to get to that final part, part 5, because it's broken up into 5 parts, of this story. As for a rating, I'm probably going to go with a 3.75 out of 5 stars. That being said, I could probably be convinced to give it a 4. So hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to drop a like. It would truly mean the world. It helps out so much more than you know. And subscribe if you haven't already to get notified about future uploads. I love y'all, and I hope you have a great day, especially you, Steven. Steven, have a nice day.